You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Wednesday, November 21st, 2018. It is also the feast day of the Presentation of Mary. Now, first, let's talk about this feast day. The Presentation of Mary is a feast for the day that Mary's parents took her to the temple and dedicated her to God. You might also remember that there's a feast of the Presentation of Jesus. This is when Mary, who was then a mother, took her son Jesus to the temple and dedicated him to God. So it's beautiful to see that this happened when Mary was a child, and she continued the tradition when her own son was born, Jesus Christ. This week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we have been talking about thankfulness because that seems to be the topic this time of year, doesn't it? But we are bringing God into the equation. And we've talked about how it only makes sense when we're thinking about Thanksgiving. It only makes sense to bring God into the equation because He has given us everything. Yesterday, we even talked about how it would be crazy not to thank God, because refusing to thank God is saying that I somehow am responsible for all the good things that I have in my life. And we know that that is just plain crazy, that God is responsible for every little good thing in our lives. Today, we are going to talk about another thing that we have to be thankful to for God, and that is our beautiful Catholic faith. If you were listening last week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we talked about the Universal Catholic Church. We talked about how it was founded by Jesus, what makes it universal, the things that tie us together. We talked about all of those things, and I hope that it left you feeling very proud and very blessed to belong to this church. Because, guys, we have so many wonderful gifts simply by belonging to the Catholic faith. Here are some gifts that I want you to think about and to truly thank God for. First of all, we have Mary, whose feast day is today. We have Mary, our loving mother, and she is our advocate. Do you know what that means? That means that Mary is our helper. When we die and stand in final judgment before God, if we loved Mary, she will be our advocate. She will speak up for us. She will help us get into heaven. What a gift that is. Not only do we have Mary, we also have an entire communion of saints. Very often here on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we talk about the daily saints. We not only can learn from their lives, but we also can go directly to them and ask them to help us carry our prayers to God. And very often they do that and help miracles happen here on earth. Another thing that we have to be thankful for are the sacraments. Yesterday, we talked about the sacraments a little bit, but just to remind ourselves that sacraments are channels of grace, God's sweet and wonderful goodness. It's like a river of God's goodness that can flow directly into us. Many of you have received your baptism, some maybe reconciliation, or even First Holy Communion. These are all things that you can look forward to and long for, and truly, after you receive them, rejoice in thanksgiving. God is so good, and it is so good to be part of the church. Here's my challenge for you today, Sprouts. Today on this feast of Our Lady, our Mother Mary, I want you to simply find time to say a Hail Mary. And as you're saying it, I want you to really think, Mary, thank you for helping me. Thank you for really helping me get to heaven. That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God intended you to be. And finally, a quick heads up to the parents. As we work our way through November, we of course are looking forward to December and Advent. Here on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we will be spending all of Advent exploring the Jesse tree, meaning we will be talking about many of Jesus' ancestors as a way to prepare our hearts to welcome him at Christmas. If you would like to explore the Jesse tree even further at home with your family, I encourage you to look into a beautiful new resource. It's a devotional book for Catholic families that explores the Jesse tree. It takes the stress off of you, gives lots of biblical context, and also is designed to truly teach children about the amazing plan that God has had in place for our salvation from the very, very beginning. To explore this book and the ornaments that go with it, head to DoSmallThingsWithLove /Jesse-Tree.